you would like to see that these Palestinian territories evolve into normal states and the peaceful way.
Of
and
course.
and then and then Israel will not bother with them anymore. No more tough
Just like we did
surveillance.
in Sinai, we gave back the whole
Mhm.
Sinai desert we gave to Egypt, and just like we did to Gaza in 2005, we
Mhm.
left.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That like
Mhm.
it's and if from the beginning, if from the very beginning the Palestinians that were there would have had the same attitude as the Palestinians in the Israeli borders proper, then they would have just been Israeli citizens. And then it would be a big question, well, what's going to end up happening if they end up becoming a demographic majority? And that those would be big issues we would have to deal with. But they didn't accept it. You know what I'm saying? They did not accept
Listening, I'm
being
listening.
citizens of Israel. They don't recognize, again, not all of them, right? But the
Mhm.
masses of them that were there, the ones that stayed in Israel recognize Israel, and now they live here and they prosper and they're more free in Israel than they would be in any of the Arabic countries in the Middle East. But this group of people, or at least their leadership, has, this is the attitude that they maintain.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I really don't know what's going to be. I like I've said from the very, very beginning, it's a I just don't know. I don't know, and it's an awful, it's an awful situation. But until there's a real attitude shift, like what you're describing that happened in the South, right? Until there is like really going to be people who are pragmatic and say, okay, we have to come to terms with the fact that Israel's not going to disappear. It's not going to be going away. It is a Jewish state that exists at our neighbors, and let's try to finally like live like regular people and I mean, stop the resistance and stop the trying to do something that's never going to happen and just make ourselves our own country. That's the only solution that I could see. And then, yeah, the settlements of this, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with how to deal with the land and everything. We've done that before. Again, we did it in the
Yeah, I
Sinai.
know, I know.
And there were settlements in the Sinai also. There were Jewish people who moved into the Sinai and they didn't want to leave. And just like what happened in Gaza, the Israeli army, my aunt and uncle, they're now divorced, but my father's sister, she was living in one of these settlements in the Sinai, and they literally were picked up by army trucks, and people were like jumping off the trucks and running back to try to say, no, no, we're not going to leave. We're not going to leave. But they did. And Egypt and Israel have been at peace now for many,
Mhm.
many
Mhm.
years. And, it's
So if the Palestinians sufficiently show that they want peace, you can imagine that some settlements in the West Bank would be, demolished, and they would pack up and leave.
somehow something like that would have to happen. Something like that. It would
Mm-hmm.
have to happen. Some of them are
Mm-hmm.
like not settlements; they're big cities. They're full cities with
Yeah.
everything there. I don't know
Um,
how that would be. Like what Bill Clinton tried to do, it was going to be a certain amount of that area was too established to trade back, so they would get land in Israel
mhm.
that was going to be theirs, etc. So I
Yeah.
could envision
Mhm.
things like that happening. And yes, I'm sure there are people like that woman Daniella Weiss. I consider her a wicked person. I don't, and like I told you, she's like the extreme of the extreme fringe of that whole mindset. So they would love to do everything that they can to make what I'm describing an
Mhm.
impossibility. There definitely are
Yeah, You're,
people like
you're
that.
you're referring to an interview with this wise
In the
person
New Yorker
in
magazine,
the New
right? This
Yorker,
woman
and
who's
she
like,
goes very far, and she basically, yeah, she sounds awful, and she
yes,
wants to
yes.
push
I'm
out
saying,
all the Palestinians and have all the land.
yeah, yeah. No,
But yeah,
she's like I said, she's almost 80 years old, and she's
yeah.
dedicated her entire life. Her parents were terrorists, or like literally, her parents were
Mhm.
during the Palestine Mandate period. So
Okay.
that she is not representative. There are Israelis who think like her. Of course, there are, but that's
Mhm.
not certainly not the mainstream. That's even Netanyahu's government, the right wing government, is not on board with her approach at all. And I
Mhm.
think she was only chosen to be interviewed in order to get these, very inflammatory rhetorical lines out of her,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is terrible. That
Mhm.
whatever. Which I agree. We
Yeah, I
lose.
was very surprised to read these things. Very like, how is this possible?
Yeah, yeah.
That she speaks so openly about these things in such terms. Like, it's very
Yes,
shocking.
it's
Yeah.
yes, very,
But
very
but but back to
distressing.
apartheid. Let's reach some conclusion. So I accept that. Okay, in Israel, the I can't point to anything that right now I can't point to anything that says, okay, there's apartheid in Israel. So what with this label when it comes to Israel and the Palestinians outside of Israel?
So again,
We're saying
it's
not
not,
possible.
we don't, that's not called apartheid. I don't know what it
So
is.
it's a total misnomer. You
It's a
should call
total
it.
misnomer. Again, apartheid
Is it an
means that there's in a
is it in
country
wait
or
is
in
it an occupation in your view?
it's an occupation, but
Yeah.
again, not even your classic occupation, because it's an occupation of a no man's land. It's an occupation of a place of not that was never not occupied.
And even under this occupation, there seems to be quite a lot of autonomy in the West Bank, you say?
In some areas, yes. In some areas that are under the PA, there are. It's like areas A, B, and C that are. So as far as I understand, I've never like made a real study of this. I don't know the grand details, but the areas that are. I mean, Israelis are not allowed to go to those areas. We're literally not in.
Can I take Nablus as an example? Nablus?
I think like Ramallah and Nablus and Jenin.
Bethlehem? No, maybe not. Bethlehem? Bethlehem.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, let's say Nablus. If I go to a school or a university in Nablus, Israel has no say in what's being taught there, I suppose.
I would assume so. Again, I don't know for sure, but I would assume so.
That's I like that you say that you don't know for sure. I mean, it shows your integrity.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know. I would look that up. That's interesting to know exactly what certainly security control they do. In other words, they control who comes and goes, that's for sure, and they control militarily they control the area, but I don't know what's happening inside in the inner workings of that city on day-to-day life, people walking around. I don't know if there's Israeli soldiers everywhere there like there are in the rest of Israel. I don't know.
And then what angers a lot of people, me included, are all these images that we see coming out of the West Bank of people being shot. Somebody sent me images of a taxi driver that was shot. I mean, it's very shocking. It makes people angry. It also provides some rationale for why Hamas did this. Like, look at what people are doing in the West Bank.
In what context are people being shot? Like I sent you something yesterday also that you could read an entire thread and not know that the 16-year-old girl they're talking about stabbed a woman in front of her children with a 10-inch knife.
Yesterday I saw a Palestinian girl walking, and the caption was that she's deaf and she gets shot in the face with a stun grenade. It's awful, right?
Yeah, that would be awful. I don't know what the
I also don't know the exact context, but I am 99% sure that this is what happened there. It angers people, of course, and they blame Israel. Of course, they blame
the only
Israel.
thing I can tell you that I do know for certain, and it's like we've mentioned this before, the people in the Israeli army that are out there and policing these places and doing these are not bloodthirsty baby killers looking for every chance they can to kill and maim and wound. That's just not true. It's just not true. And like we spoke about, there was one time that there was a really, really bad person who shot a kid in the back with a rubber bullet.
Yeah,
and
you told me
she was arrested and went to jail, and she was prosecuted for that because that's not what we do. I'm telling you that what you are presented with, because I see it on Twitter, I see what's happening. What you are presented with as completely innocent people and all of these things. There's a context,
and I don't even look for these things. It just.
I understand. So send them to me, and let's try to find the context each time. Today there are 3 Palestinians that were killed. Just outside Jerusalem today, there are 3 Palestinians that were killed. I'm sure in the Arab press it just says that they were, killed, indiscriminately. They shot at the checkpoint. They were killed in a firefight, and in the car they didn't kill. Thank God. They shot 4 Israelis. And it's a road that my partner travels whenever there's traffic on the main highway. Then he goes through that checkpoint, and it's not uncommon that he's there. And 4 people there were shot today. Thank God they weren't killed. And the 3 terrorists were killed, and then they opened up their car, and there's machine guns, there's hatchets, there's all sorts of stuff that's in there, all sorts of paraphernalia that they're on their way to commit an attack. So again, I don't know about the deaf girl with the stun grenade. I don't know. I would have to see that and understand the context, but it is not the way you're describing. I said to my wife also, like what you said about just indiscriminately somebody drove by and just like target practice shot somebody in the back. That does not happen. It does not happen. It doesn't happen. Are there people caught in crossfires? Yes. Are there people that are, mistakes made? Yes. But there is not indiscriminate, wanton murder just for the sake of terrorizing the population and murder. There is not. That just does not happen. It doesn't happen. It's just not it's just not. People like that are arrested if something like that would happen. It doesn't happen over here. Even there was a whole big case. There was a person who committed a terrorist act and a shooting, and he was shot and incapacitated on the ground. This is a number of years ago already. And a soldier came over to him and basically executed him on the ground. And he went to jail. It was a huge thing, and many people supported him and said, no, he shouldn't go to jail. He was suspicious. Maybe he had an explosive vest and everything, but it was a huge, huge thing in the country, and the person was prosecuted and he went to jail, and it just doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't. It makes it. I know what these people think because I read it on Twitter, and their picture of Israel and their picture of who and what is happening here is a completely distorted picture that they literally think we're the Nazis, and worse than the Nazis is like, it's absurd. It's absurd.
Well, when we met online, I called you a genocidal maniac.
I know you did. I know
I never apologized for that. I wish to apologize for that.